The much sought after interest waiver on interest of loans that had undergone a moratorium has finally been announced. Earlier, what would happen to interest accumulating on EMIs between March 1st, 2020 and August 31st, 2020 was a grey area. Now that there is clarity, some of you may be hearing talk of compound and simple interest. Some others may be wondering how much their net savings would be. To shed light on the same, I have with me Adil Shetty, CEO of bankbazaar.com, who will help us understand the maths behind the interest waiver on loans and where borrowers stand in terms of benefit. What kind of loans are eligible for this interest waiver? Does it also include credit card dues?
So for this interest waiver, loans under rupees 2 crore as on February 29, 2020 are eligible. This would include education loans, MSME loans, home loans, consumer durable loans, auto loans, personal loans, and yes, credit card dues as on that date are also eligible for this interest on interest waiver.
Right. Going forward, what is meant by interest on interest and why had it become an issue specifically under the moratorium?
So during the 6-month moratorium, you were paying interest on the outstanding principal. So it's not as if the interest was being waived. We were calculating, or the bank was calculating interest on your outstanding principal, and that continued to accumulate. Now, the issue boiled down to a smaller subsection of this additional interest, which is you accrued additional interest in the 6 months. Would you pay interest on that interest? So essentially, the question became, would you pay compound interest or simple interest during the moratorium? And what has now been decided is you will only pay simple interest. And the interest on interest component is waived. Just to give you a simple example, because this I think is critical, on a 50 lakh home loan for someone who's taken this out for 20 years at 8.5% interest rate, the saving is about 3,700 rupees when interest on interest is waived. So we're talking about a fairly small amount on a 50 lakh loan of about 3,700 rupees, which gets waived, which is the essential interest on interest over the 6-month moratorium.
So, how will this interest on interest waiver work? What is the mechanism, so to speak, and will it be a complete or partial waiver? What will be the rate of interest applicable?
So everyone is eligible for this interest on interest waiver as long as you meet the entry criterion, which is the loan is up to 2 crore as on Feb 29th, not an NPA as of Feb 29th, and so on and so forth. Even if you didn't avail the moratorium, you will get the benefit of this interest on interest waiver. There's no application process you need to go through. You will be told by the bank how this will be done. It will be done as of the first week of November. It will be done by November 5th. And we expect that your outstanding principal on your loan account will be reduced as to the amount of this interest on interest.
Do you see this translating to big savings for borrowers, or do you think that, of course, that depends on the loan amount and the tenure and a lot of other things like that?
Yeah. So see, we have a fairly good sense of what interest on interest works out to. I'll give you a couple of new examples. So let's say you took a car loan for 9 lakhs. And the interest rate on that car loan is 10% for 6 years, right? The interest on interest calculation we've done is you save about 900 rupees as the interest on interest waiver on this 9-10 lakh car loan as a benefit, right? Let's take a personal loan example. I've taken a 5 lakh personal loan for 4 years at a 13% interest rate. The interest on interest saving calculation we've done at Bank Bazaar shows you save 710 rupees. So broadly, right, we're talking about reasonably small amounts of money. What I want people to understand, and this is really critical, is that the interest on the principal is actually a fairly large sum. So if you see some of the earlier work we've done and you've done, by not paying 6 EMIs during the moratorium, you could end up paying 20 to 30 extra EMIs at the fag end of the loan, right? So don't think of this as a waiver of interest. I'm strongly advising anyone who's listening, try and make a bullet payment of 120% of the moratorium you utilized within 12 months to bring your outstanding principal in line. The interest on interest is actually a marginally and a small amount.
So, do you think there is a range, if you were to specify a range, how much savings are we looking at?
So I gave you three examples, right? I started on the lower range with a 5 lakh personal loan for 4 years at 13%. The saving was 710 rupees, according to the calculation we did at Bank Bazaar on interest waiver. I also took a 50 lakh home loan on the higher end for 20 years at 8.5% interest rate and calculated an interest on interest saving of 3,700. So roughly, right, we're talking between 700 and 3,700. That is the saving on interest on interest. But keep in mind, the interest on principal is much, much higher. And you still have to deal with that problem. And you have to deal with it by doing a bullet payment.
So, will this apply to borrowers who did not opt for the moratorium?
Yes, you bring up a very interesting question. So, the quick answer is yes, this applies to even borrowers who didn't apply for the moratorium. But please keep in mind, we defined entry criteria for this interest on interest earlier. So, this is not an NPA as on Feb 29th. The total loans outstanding should be less than 2 crores as of Feb 29th. This is applicable to MSME, education, home, personal, consumer durable credit card dues. So once you qualify, whether you took the moratorium or you didn't take the moratorium, you will get this interest on interest waiver benefit.
So, how and when borrowers get this money? By what channel, so to speak, and by what timeline?
Yeah, great. So, we've discussed what the value is, right? And we calculated that it's between 700 for a 5 lakh personal loan to 3,700 for a 50 lakh 20-year home loan. We also said it's applicable, and whether you took the moratorium or you didn't take the moratorium, as long as you're eligible, right? Not an NPA as of Feb 29th, up to 2 crores as of Feb 29th, you're eligible. Now, to get this benefit, right, you will get it as of November 5th. And most likely, right, you should wait to hear from your bank, but most likely we're expecting this to be a reduction of, let's say, 700 rupees or 3,700 rupees in your outstanding principal of your loan account by November 5th, right? The banks will operationalize this and you will get the communication. You'll automatically get the money and you'll hear from your bank by November 5th.
So, one question I just thought of, off the top of my head, will there be variations across banks as well? Will there be some sort of distinctions from varying from bank to bank and maybe guidelines or, how they go about it? Or it will be uniform across all banks?
Yeah. See, basis my read on the RBI circular, right? I expect that this will be fairly straightforward. So the question number one is, do you qualify or not? And we spoke about the various criterion to qualify. Once you qualify, the calculation of interest on interest is fairly straightforward. And the mechanism we expect will be that your outstanding principal will be reduced by the equivalent amount, be it 700 on one side in our calculation or the 3,700 that Bank Bazaar calculated on a 50 lakh 20-year home loan. But that should be automatic. So I expect it'll be fairly straightforward, but it's always best to wait and hear the actual notification from your bank, because once the RBI says it, every lender has to internalize it and then put out a consumer intimation. So you should start getting emails or SMSs or letters, right? Clearly stating how this benefit of interest on interest should come to you.